Welcome to Awakening Sacred Union between the Divine Feminine and Divine Masculine. Today, I'm having a conversation with a wonderful Sacred Masculine practitioner, Aaron Keith Christos, who's down in Tasmania, and he's doing wonderful work in his own Sacred Union and with men, primarily trying to be a leader in the awakening of the Sacred Masculine as we're going through such amazing experiences on both sides of the polarities. And of course, as we're speaking today and speaking of the masculine and feminine, we're well aware that we all have both and that we hold them no matter what our gender is or our disposition. So we're going to speak of feminine and masculine and he and she because it's simpler for our conversation. But however that fits for you, please enjoy our conversation today. So hi, Aaron.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Elaine. It's a real honor and pleasure.
Yeah, it's great to have you. And I'm really excited about this conversation because it's so important that we hear the voice of the sacred masculine coming forward, because I know I work with women primarily, and I have a few masculine clients, but not too many. And there's a huge, I think, energy in the field of the divine feminine that is aching for the sacred masculine, that feels that they haven't arrived yet, that they're not here, that they don't exist, that the masculine is still letting the feminine down. And I don't see it that way, because I see a lot of amazing sacred men that are coming forward today and doing their work and connecting to their divinity in the most profound ways, and bringing forward a new template of what that masculine is going to look like in our new space and in our new world. So I'm really excited to hear from you about that perspective and how you're holding that leadership.
Yeah, beautiful. Thanks, Elaine. And yeah, it is a narrative that I've heard elsewhere that, there's a lack of conscious or awakening men, and I just don't agree with it. I
Mm-hmm.
think what might not be so obvious is quite often good men, good conscious men, the part of the sacred masculine coding is humility, and it's
Mm-hmm.
not so showy. It's not so look at me and flamboyant. It's humble. It's present, and it's attuned to the needs of the environment.
That's
So
beautiful.
it just might not be so obvious at first glance.
Yeah, I think that is actually an excellent point, and I completely agree with you. And I think the true divine feminine and the true divine masculine are not showy. That's not really what it's about. They're not trying to put on a performance. They're trying to come into their sacred authenticity first and foremost, and to connect internally in order to connect to whatever it is that's external to them. So
Yeah,
thanks for that. I think I totally agree with you. So let's just dive right in and talk about some of the things that, I think people are always asking questions about. So let's talk about sacred sexuality to begin, and
mm,
just go right there, because it's a big topic for the divine feminine, as she's looking for that partner to meet her in the sacred sexuality space. How do you view the journey of a masculine as he moves from a more everyday view of his sexuality and begins to connect to himself more closely into his divinity, and to see himself and his own energy as sacred? How do you see within yourself and with others that you work with the journey of the masculine as he enters into that arena?
sure. So the first thing that comes to mind is about five, no, 6 years ago now. My wife and I went to do a retreat in New Zealand, and it was a co-creative space with Māori elder, Auntie Rose. And something she shared is that we're both human and divine. And so I think it's really important that when we're talking about, divinity, we've really got to acknowledge the fact that we're in a human vessel. And that comes with a lot of complexities. And some of those complexities are our hormones
Yeah.
and our biology, our brain, our neurology.
Mm-hmm.
And part of being a man is having to deal with testosterone. And if you're healthy, a lot of it.
Mm-hmm.
And that has its own propensity to to be aggressive, to want to conquer and to want to compete and consume in a way. And part of integrating our human form is coming into right relationship with that, not having it run the show, having a healthy connection to it, but not letting it dominate us either. And that really requires a lot of maturity. And when it comes to sexuality, what I see is the limitation is the unconsciousness around it and when our trauma is entwined into it. So like I'm really big on using the chakras and the energy body as a map and a blueprint for the different dimensions of our consciousness. And if we look at the sacral chakra being our sexual energy center, and we've got our heart center here, which is, where we express our love and authenticity. In between our sexuality and our heart is our solar plexus. And that is all about our sense of will. It's like the ego, it's power. So what happens, and when I'm working with men in this realm, is like we need to address the traumas within the sacral, which relate to shame and not enoughness, this feeling like we're not enoughness or we're not enough. There's something inherently wrong with us. I know this has been a huge journey for me. And then there's the issues of control and power. And what is most common is the sexual energy is trapped in these lower energy bodies, and it's unable to come up into the heart and be an expression of love. And so, yeah, I guess the cure for having our sexuality come into its more refined, more divine expression is doing our shadow work, reclaiming our enoughness as men, not trying to prove that we're enough through our sexuality and how much we, conquer. That's been really prevalent in the culture that I grew up in. My worthiness of a man was predicated on how many women I could conquer and sleep with. And it's obviously it's really damaging for women, but it's also really damaging for men. And I've had a really big journey in this realm of sacred sexuality. When Greer and I first met, I didn't feel like my sexual energy could be contained to just one person. I was also aware that my sense of enoughness and worthiness was tied into this. I got a kick out of being with women. It was something I was naturally really good at and gave a boost to my ego, having been a teenager that really suffered with really low self-esteem. It was one of the ways that I felt enough. And so whilst I was aware that, I didn't feel like I could contain all the sexual energy that I had, at least I had enough self-awareness to realize I needed some inner work here. And I'm really grateful for that because it helped me reclaim my enoughness, which has a flow-on effect in context outside of my sexuality. So it really became a catalyst for a lot of healing and growth that transcended my sexuality.